NIL is key to us being able to compete. If you're not keeping up with NIL, it's like when they invented the forward pass, when they allowed the forward pass, it's like, no, we're gonna stick to just running the ball while everybody else is throwing the forward pass against you. We have to stay up with the rules. We have to stay up with the times, because we've seen at other programs and other places where people, once you fall behind, it's so hard to catch back up.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn State!
College football tees, college basketball tees, whatever you need, Mercury has you covered with the best merch out there. We're talking about high quality clothing, inexpensive, and the best part is I have a 15% discount for everybody who goes and gets some right now. Use the code below, hit the link in the description, and go get your merch now. Use the code to get 15% off. What are you waiting on? Go do it.
What's going on, folks? Doing a little solo today. Brandon may or may not jump on. He's got some business job obligations that could be holding him up, but we got a guest that I'm really excited about today. He's going to join us for this entire show. We got Rich Stankewicz, former brother of ours, letterman, Big 33 alumni, and probably one of the greatest representations of Penn State football players off the field when it comes to academic success and what he's done from a business standpoint. And he's got a cool role now with Happy Valley United as the director of operations. So we're going to take this whole show and angle it towards NIL. Obviously, spring ball coming up, transfer portal, all this stuff. We've talked about NIL high level, but we wanted to bring some folks in who are in it day to day and can help educate all of our listeners around the topic and our goals. So Stank, dude, appreciate you hopping on, man. And, what do you got for us?
No, it's good to talk to you, Hack. I mean, you played me up pretty good there. I mean, I did all right in school and all that kind of stuff, but yeah. So it's great to talk to you. It's great to educate folks about how NIL works and how NIL works at Penn State. All the relationships we have going on. So this is a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, no, this is going to be awesome. But before we get to that, you were a Big 33 alumni, correct?
Yes.
And you played with Noel LaMontagne, who's a very, very close confidant of mine in that game. Is that correct?
I played with a bunch of guys. We had so many guys on that team. It was pretty amazing how many. Scary Adams on that team, Eric Cole, a whole bunch of alums, Aaron Harris, Shafi Fields.
Jeez.
In my era, I mean, I'm an old head now. The Big 33 was like the thing to be at because there weren't all the showcases that they have now and all that kind of stuff. Big 33 was a big deal back then.
My dad actually played in it in, I guess it would have been 87 or 88 with the Rocket. So I'm on to the Big 33 game. Are they still rolling with? There hasn't not been an alumni that's played in a Super Bowl from that game?
I think it's still alive. I think the streak is still alive, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like I football historians and nerds, that was like Pennsylvania versus the country at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken. And then it shifted. It was Texas and then Ohio and now Maryland.
Texas, Ohio, Maryland. Yeah, it was all over the place.
Yeah, but it is I think the standard as it pertains to those all American games. So that's super cool and just a little background on the Pennsylvania side of things. But other than that, I want to dive into some stuff about Penn State specifically and your path there and your career. And I do want to get your best Joe Paterno story.
I've got a couple.
As I know a lot of the old heads do. And I've loved getting them and the impersonation. Everybody's got their own.
Yeah. The high pitched voice is kind of universal in any Joe impersonation, but yeah. So funny enough about NIL, we're right around my 1 year anniversary being involved with Happy Valley United. So my first 4 months or so with the company, it was Lions Legacy Club at the time, which I'm representing the Lions Legacy Club team. I got interested and involved before this with a group of friends that I had, and we actually threw an event that Olu and Drew were at a restaurant and had like an interview session with them. And then through my connections and setting up that event, I got much more interested in NIL. And then, give or take a year ago is when the whole Shrewsbury thing went down. Yeah. So like as that started to happen, you saw Maudie jumping in, you saw everybody, getting involved and wanting to, help steer things the right way, get us moving in the right direction. And that's when I started volunteering. I mean, literally we're within a week or so of when I started. I volunteered for 4 months. And then when the collectives merged, I used to do software. I was a product manager for a software company. I threw my hat in. I says, I'll run operations for you guys, because basically operations is the equivalent for what I was doing in the software world.
Right.
And it was just a great opportunity to, get back involved with the program, trying to give back and help the guys. It's awesome getting to see and meet the guys and then equating them to whoever I knew when I played. So like, you see a guy, I'm like, yep, you're Anthony Adams. I see another guy, I'm like, yep, you're LeVar. See another guy, yep, you're Brandon Short. So it's cool to get back involved with the guys and help them build their platforms to do something bigger when they're, done at Penn State.
Before we get to the next topic, we're going to take a minute to talk about Factor Meals. Now, I know that there's a ton of food delivery service options out there. I'm going to stand on the table here and say this. Factor Meals does it different. Pre-prepared, chef-crafted, dietitian approved. We've gotten a chance to test them here at the Pocket. I just got mine this past week. Phenomenal meals, super easy. Throw them in the oven. Like I said, they're pre-prepared. Pop them out, throw them on a plate. I'm a new father, got a wife. I'm unfortunately the one that does the majority of the cooking in the house. So whenever I need a break, this is a great option for me. Meals, 2 minutes or less. They got snacks. They got smoothies. They got little juice drinks. It's super flexible. It fits into my schedule when need be. No mess. I also do the dishes. So therefore, minimal dishes when it comes to preparation with Factor Meals. Really, really, really highly recommend them for your day-to-day operation. So if you like what I'm talking about, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, please head over to factormeals.com/pocket50 and use code pocket50 to get 50% off. That's code pocket50 at factormeals.com/pocket50 to get 50% off. I know that's a lot of pocket 50s, but you guys get the gist. 50% off to cut into about 75% of your meal prep time. Phenomenal, and I highly recommend them. No doubt. And you brought up some good points surrounding your experience and like Letterman getting back involved and pulling things together. And like the one constant that I've always heard, even back when I was playing before NIL and all this other craziness was out there, was our Letterman group was very, very strong. It's rich, and Joe kind of structured it that way. And that, I think even from Joe, with Bill and now Coach Franklin, that's something that's stayed constant within our program and is extremely powerful if leveraged properly. And with this whole space that we have now, Brandon and I have dove into it a bunch, and I want to get it from you as a guy who's into it day to day, as I said earlier, and I'll let you get to that. But I think leveraging all of these pieces, because there are guys who do want to give back, because this means a lot. And whether you were an 11 or 12-year player in the league, or if you were a guy who, was a glue guy in the locker room when you played there and then went on to have a successful career, it's a great opportunity to leverage the assets that we have. And I think that that's the ultimate goal here. And it's about keeping the program relevant in a very unstable marketplace right now as it pertains to like what the rules, what the regulations are. Is it pay for play? Is it not? Right. So this is going to be a real good one, folks, and I want you to tune in. And like Stank said, he's an esteemed academic. He's an esteemed academic, so we can get a little nerdy here. But what do you think about that with former guys? What have you seen from guys of your era? Because I know I can definitely talk to like my era, but
I see a lot of guys interested in getting involved. The tough thing is figuring out how and where they can get involved.
Right.
And even to today, there's confusion over what, you're allowed to do. Like, what can we do? How can we sponsor? How can I help? And, you know, probably the easiest way to look at it, and like I said, still to today, people don't understand. NIL contracts with players are just like endorsements for any other player that's out there of any sport. In Pennsylvania, you know, it comes down to, we were talking about how it's ever changing with the injunction that's in now on the NCAA rules. So effectively, there are no NCAA rules right now, which is wild. But we still are governed by Pennsylvania state laws. So Pennsylvania state laws, the only limitations in endorsements are the players can endorse like vice things like smoking, tobacco, gambling, those kinds of things. But other than that, it's wide open for any kind of endorsement or any kind of involvement from any company that people want to have. So we've had a bunch of guys reach out. Obviously, we've talked to you and Adam and a bunch of other guys about opportunities from a media and a content perspective and bringing guys together. So, you know, I think we have a great opportunity here. And this kind of leads into like the program that hopefully we'll talk about here in a little bit is what we're doing at Midler Field during the spring game. Yep. You know, it's bringing the past and the present together. And the idea is we're going to have lettermen involved. We're going to have current players involved. And it's going to be kind of just a celebration of the eras of Penn State football. So it's going to be pretty fun.
Right. So let's talk about this. NIL, right? You explained Pennsylvania. You explained kind of everything that we're going on. Now, I think the collective's role is unique and something that a lot of folks don't really understand, if that makes sense.
Correct.
Give me a high level of what the collective does, how it operates, ways to possibly even engage there, not necessarily for lettermen, but maybe the guy who's been a fan for 40 years and generational.
Right.
Like, what is the collective's role? What does it do operationally? How does it get things done? And then we can kind of dive into how folks can get involved outside of just joining the letterman or joining the collective.
So basically the way that things work is, you know, the rules around NIL is the school isn't allowed to directly contract any athletes. They can't directly contract them to play. They can't directly contract them for any endorsement deals or anything. So basically for every school, it's necessary to have an outside group or outside representation that works with the athletes, gets them contracted, works with companies, negotiates contracts, all of those kinds of things, sets up events, and plays matchmaker for athletes and opportunities. So that's really the big role that we fill is being that entity that can actually interact directly with all of these groups and bring people together for opportunities for the athletes.
Right. And that's massive because I don't think people understand the whole back end of that. Like you said, there's compliance portions of it that are changing by the hour, honestly. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge part of it. Now, when you're talking to folks about getting involved, and I see a lot of these things that are out there, there's why NIL. I'm a fan. I already hold season tickets. I pay for, parking passes. I support in all these other ways. So what's the ultimate goal of the collective when it comes to going to market to attack, let's just say, the everyday fan who's already paying a lot for engagement and involvement with the machine of college football, and specifically the machine of Penn State football within our demographic? What's the pitch? What's the value add? How are things starting to come together and align to make it easy or an easy sell for somebody to get involved in this, other than simply like, hey, if you want the best players, we gotta pay them in some way, shape, or form. Are you paying too much for health insurance? Too busy to read long, complicated policies? Well, guess what? Here at The Pocket, we got a solution for you. Mahdi Health. Patrick Mahdi, former letterman. He's doing a fantastic job in this industry. He leverages years of expertise to build a customized health insurance policy for you and your needs. Individual plans, family plans. Patrick ensures you get the best protection for your health and budget. Mahdi Health, one broker, endless solutions. Now offering up to $500 cash bonus for every customer referral. So quit overpaying for your health insurance. Visit MadiHealth.com to schedule a free consultation with Patrick himself.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of different angles to look at this. I see NIL as an opportunity to bring the community and the players closer together at a basic level. Again, back in my era, we weren't allowed to work camps. We weren't allowed to do anything sponsored, anything paid. We saw all these stories of players that actually lost their NCAA eligibility because of being paid for being a skier. I forget his first name was Jeremy. There was a guy who was a professional skier, and he wasn't allowed to play football because he had been paid to ski. So that a lot of those walls have been knocked down. So I know right now multiple people that are organizing camps with our guys to get them out in the community, get them interacting with the youth, teaching kids great lessons, all of that kind of stuff. So, there's kind of like the grassroots level where you start there. Camps, we throw events where it's going to be all these lettermen, all these players that are going to be at the event, and all the fans have access. Where in the past, again, that setup wasn't, in some instances, wasn't possible, and and wasn't capable of pulling that together. You can kind of start at that level and then go up to the corporate level. I mean, everyone's kind of seen, the awesome commercial that Julian Fleming did for Blaze Alexander. Him rolling the car over, all that kind of stuff. At a general business level, people can be involved. For a dealership or for any different kind of entity like that. Then you kind of take another step up, and we work with groups like West Shore Home, which we have a great relationship with, and they've done great things for the program, and we can have a corporate-wide relationship with them with 10, 15 guys that are all involved in promotion. Kind of talking through, that's kind of like the tiers, or like the way that we kind of look at the landscape out there. And it's great to be able to involve just regular folks and have them involved with the players, and have them come face to face with the players, signing autographs, doing those kinds of things. Yeah.
It's funny because I see it as NIL is access. Is basically what it comes down to. It's access to stuff that you've never had access to before. You've had to either wait outside of the stadium for hours as guys filter out to go to see their family and get autographs and have just a minute with your kid or something like that. You now have an open door access to all these things through NIL and the programs that are set up. And I think that that's massively important, and it should be a massive incentivization for moving towards participation. Now, the flip side of that for me is, again, I go back to the economics of what it is, right? And I think that personally, I still believe that there is some tightening of the guardrails from some entity surrounding it to take that pressure off of folks. But what I've come down to is listen, it does come down to, do you want to have a talented roster? Do you want to have a deep roster? Do you want to compete for national championships? And as a fan base, you kind of have to make that decision. And under the current circumstances, it's participate or die in a way, without being extremely severe on one side of the coin or the other. It's, how do we figure out a system in the time being while everything else is figuring itself out and working through the whole operation? How do we figure out a system that is reciprocally beneficial for the fans, the players, the program, and the businesses and everybody involved? And I think that brings us to a great juncture. Like you said, one of the things that I didn't preface and Stank got to was the spring game, but here at Mercury and at State Media specifically, we're working with the collective closely to start forming a content partnership to be able to give folks access, at least digitally, and then potentially as we start going into these events and stuff like that, in person, not only to the current players, but to the lettermen and former players who may resonate with certain folks more than even some of these current players do. And I think that's the bigness of it, right? It's like, how do we mobilize all of our assets in a singular direction to ultimately help folks win now? And then, leave it up to, because I think it does need to happen for the betterment of all of college football, is a clearer picture on like what NIL is, pay scales, salary caps. These are all things I've dove into, but it's like right now you just have to scrounge together what you can scrounge together to stay relevant long enough for that to take effect. And then hopefully it takes the burden off these folks. But, really, if you are passionate about Penn State football, there's no reason you shouldn't be participating in NIL in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and this all comes back to the why. Like, why be involved? And the cool thing is there's multiple reasons why. There's the access that we already talked about. There's the ability to help the student athletes. And again, I talk about my time. When I played, and even when you played, like, parents traveling to games was difficult. It was expensive, and everybody knows how expensive State College is now for games and how much hotel rooms are and all of that kind of stuff. So, a surprising thing that I've told people that they've been surprised at is, we have some players that go years without their parents attending a game, or, almost their entire career until maybe they're just like starting at the end of their career and have the ability to come see them play. NIL has given, like, this is a why. Like, you can donate and you can help those families. You can help those players get their families to come see them play. And this isn't a small chunk of the roster. This is a decent chunk of the roster that, especially kids coming from the Carolinas or Texas or Florida, it's a big deal of getting them here, having a place for them to stay, and having them able to see their kids compete, which is awesome. So I was from Pennsylvania, grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, so 2.5 hours away. I took that for granted. My parents could drive up for the day and come see me play. But that wasn't the case for everybody. People, sleeping on dorm room floors, all those kinds of things. So that's a good reason why to be involved. And then, what you said is NIL is key to us being able to compete. It's a new rule. And if you're not keeping up with NIL, it's like when they invented the forward pass, when they allowed the forward pass, it's like, no, we're gonna stick to just running the ball while everybody else is throwing the forward pass against you. You can't. We have to stay up with the rules. We have to stay up with the times, because we've seen at other programs and other places where people, once you fall behind, it's so hard to catch back up. You have to get a lightning strike or lucky, or have everything line up for you to kind of get your program back.
Before we get to the next topic, we're going to take a minute to talk about Factor Meals. Now, I know that there's a ton of food delivery service options out there. I'm going to stand on the table here and say this: Factor Meals does it different. Pre-prepared, chef-crafted, dietitian approved. We've gotten a chance to test them here at the Pocket. I just got mine this past week. Phenomenal meals, super easy. Throw them in the oven. Like I said, they're pre-prepared. Pop them out, throw them on a plate. I'm a new father, got a wife. I'm unfortunately the one that does the majority of the cooking in the house. So whenever I need a break, this is a great option for me. Meals, 2 minutes or less. They got snacks. They got smoothies. They got little juice drinks. It's super flexible. It fits into my schedule when need be. No mess. I also do the dishes. So therefore, minimal dishes when it comes to preparation with Factor Meals. Really, really, really highly recommend them for your day-to-day operation. So if you like what I'm talking about, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, please head over to factormeals.com/pocket50 and use code pocket50 to get 50% off. That's code pocket50 at factormeals.com/pocket50 to get 50% off. I know that's a lot of pocket 50s, but you guys get the gist. 50% off to cut into about 75% of your meal prep time. Phenomenal, and I highly recommend them.
Yeah. And that's always so interesting to me, Stank, because like I look at my tenure there and like the vast majority of the reason I stayed at Penn State through all of that was the logo and like the letterman and the alumni and like kind of the things that weren't tangible at that point in time in my life or my career, but represented something. And I think something a lot of fans directly correlate, because I think Joe leaned on it for so long and built such a massive brand behind it. Like it's like, this is Penn State. And it was up there with like the current of like, if before NIL, if like Nick Saban came into your school and offered you a scholarship, like that meant something. Like that was really, really cool and something fans and folks could get behind. And now, to your point, this whole thing has shifted business and almost to like the extreme on the other side. And it's like, I think it's going to come back to where it needs to be in the middle. And I think that brand and all of the other great things that come with coming to Penn State in terms of Penn State selling itself are there. But like right now, the first question kids are asking is how much am I going to make? What's my opportunity with all this? So there is that element of like, if you want to keep that alive, you got to make some sacrifices now and hope that everything's going to come. Because at the end of the day, the current model, I don't believe is sustainable. And there's going to be some fixes in it. And I think that's where making fans aware of that, at least on a high level, and saying like, you got to trust us on this because this is where it's going. And like, we can come together now and make sure that we're staying competitive. Because I think that's ultimately what matters, right? Like sports right now is so, what have you done for me lately type. And like, you have to stay relevant. You have to stay on top of things. And to your point, you know, you got to compete in this landscape. Everyone else is doing it. And if you expect to compete with these programs now that are dumping a ton of money into this and a ton of resources into this, you got to match that effort in some way, shape, or form. And I think that is something that people have to put their egos and their thought process and brand association with Penn State aside at times, because it's just not the reality.
And it's the unfortunate consequence of having 40 years of evolution in the game happen in 3 years.
Correct.
Or 4 years. I mean, it's the rubber band snap right now is what's happening, and you know we're dealing with the repercussions of this. I remember my time at Penn State, and Joe believed in having more money in our pockets. Like he's famous for saying like he wants the guys to be able to go out and, go out on a date, buy a pizza, see a movie, that kind of thing. And that, just like with everything else, Joe was forward thinking with the playoff and, so many other things that have happened at Penn State and in college football. So, just having that, from 40 years ago to now, that should have been a gradual progression. It should have become obvious when coaches started making $5 million and $10 million. Like there's something broken here. Yeah. We're spending, $100 million, $200 million on facilities. And, we have football players sending Pell Grant checks home to help, make ends meet at home. Yeah. There was just such a separation between the business of college football and the players for so long. And again, like I said before, it's the rubber band snap that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, the system took the ultimate fuel and driver of the system for granted, and everyone was kind of just falling in line because it was such an old system. Like it was just like, that's the way it is, it's funny. So let's shift gears now to, like I said, we hinted at it, Mercury and State Media with the collective, and let's go to the spring game because I think that's the next big thing. Spring ball is obviously kicking off, and some efforts in that direction of everything that you hinted on in terms of giving fans opportunity, giving fans access, doing things. You mentioned the past and the present and all that stuff coming together, and I think that's going to be a continual theme as all this grows. But again, here at State Media, we're working on mobilizing Letterman athlete-driven content and partnering with the collective to do so across all facets of their business and how they do things, and ultimately help build those brands for those players and potential companies that want to come in and get involved, all aspects of it. So we have a great event coming up. I want to let you highlight it, the Saturday of the spring game, and kind of talk us
Saturday of the spring game. We're starting, I believe, at 10 a.m. There's going to be a session before and after the game. It's a celebration of past and present. In the morning session prior to the game, it's going to be Penn State Letterman. Mercury's going to be there. You guys are going to be doing your thing. There's going to be lots of media going on, lots of food and drink for everybody. So it's going to be the morning's going to be a great opportunity to see Penn State Letterman. After the game, the plan is to get as many of the guys as we can from the team over to Medler Field after the game, and both events, the morning and the afternoon session, are both at Medler, and kind of like bring the eras together at that point. So all of the Lettermen that we have there, all of the fans that we have there, again, get the community together, get everybody talking, and just have a great night celebrating the past decades of Penn State football. That's
fantastic. That's what it's all about, and I love that. That's the one thing that we have that I think is unique, is just such a rich history, and it goes so deep, and fans are entwined in it, and it's like the more and more we can leverage that, I think the more and more we're going to get everything working in the right direction. So I know we're excited about it. We're teasing potentially a college game day type setup, obviously not like as grand, but get some guys up there and circling through and having guys talk, give some analysis, highlight some former guys from more of my era, and then get some guys even back to Stank's era up there talking about Penn State football and what you guys want to hear. So it's going to be fun. We're really excited about kicking that off. But Stank, listen, man, NIL is such a crazy thing. It's such a changing and ever evolving door, and we appreciate you coming on today, giving these folks a little bit of clarity into what this is and what our goal is and what our focus is, and that's ultimately taking care of our own, and nurturing a system that's sustainable throughout the next decades of college football.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hack. I appreciate you giving me the time on here. Hope to see everybody at the spring game event, and many events to follow, hopefully, with us and Mercury.
Many events to follow, man. All right, brother. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll be talking to you pretty regularly here leading up.
Yes.
It's going to be fun.
Yep. Good talking to you, Hack.
Thanks, man.